This is SportsJam. I'm Doug Doyle. Today, my guest is someone who is really changing the way fans engage with sports through technology and has been one of the best at her field. Kelly Pracht is the CEO and founder of nVenue, which has pioneered the microbetting and tech space in the sports world and beyond. Kelly, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Doug. It's really, really nice to be here. You've had some amazing people on this show, like heavy hitters. So representing the sports techie space, I don't take that lightly. So I appreciate you having me.
You mentioned before we started, you were going to put up your Altuve jersey. You should have, because he is such an incredible player.
Yeah, he's so inspiring. And, as I developed this company, I've my common thing that I tell people is I spent over probably 100 games at Minute Maid Park building this tech and testing the tech. So I got to see Altuve's almost his entire career with the Astros, and it's been a blast. So,
well, let's start there then. You were going to these Astro games, and an idea kind of just popped into your head that really has changed your life. There was something lacking in the sports world, and you came up with it, and now it's become your passion.
It really is. So 2015 to 2017, you'd find me in my career. I was in doing high performance compute. I've been working at HPE then and developing really advanced technologies. And our go-to pastime as a family has been baseball. So we were in Houston, and all of a sudden the light bulb started going in my head, like how we solve problems in tech in the real world. I've seen so many times technology, we try and force fit solutions and make people want them. But here I'm at these games, and it was really simple as a start. I'm watching the numbers up on the screen and watching the game, and stats are a passion of mine, but I like real-time stats, and I couldn't make sense of them as fast as I wanted more. Like, okay, that's the batter, I want the pitcher. Stuff is happening in real time, but what I really wanted to answer was, what's going to happen? What do the numbers really tell me? And you can't do splits on splits on splits that fast. And I was solving these big tech problems that we were simulating the nuclear stockpile with our customers, and we were helping the world predict large global weather patterns. And I thought, you know what? I just want to predict what's about to happen in baseball. So somewhere between 15 and 17, I started tinkering with the code, then got very serious. And by 2019, we had prototypes running and working that predicted in real time. But it all came from that need of, we need to understand data faster and better and more quicker, so it complements how we experience watching sports.
So let's talk about microbetting, because a lot of people might not understand exactly what you work with and how you've really changed this landscape of in-game experience, whether you're in the stands or at a stadium. People can now look at your data that you're providing for them and make intelligent decisions.
100%. So what I like to talk about microbetting, or to really explain microbetting, is this is something we've always done as fans. Always. And as I was sitting in games and sitting at sports bars, and I come from this crazy sports family, so I know what it's like to watch sports in every environment. What we do is we predict about what's about to happen, and we talk about it. I'll bet you this is going to be a home run. I'll bet you he gets beamed here, if you want to get aggressive in the predictions. Or, watch this, I think the Cowboys are going to 3 and out. That's what we do. We talk about what's about to happen. So microbetting is nothing more than what we've already been doing all along. Now we're just taking it where you can do it digitally, at scale, very fast, socially. You can share that. So we're basically just applying tech into this really, really organic thing that we do as fans already. And it's everybody. It's not just sports bettors. It's anybody watching the game, an avid fan, a casual fan, you name it.
It's interesting that you say we've been doing this, because as a former catcher myself, I've always watched the game from behind the plate, right? Predicting what's the next pitch going to be. Is it going to be a pitch out? Is it going to be a curveball? Is it going to be a fastball in on his hands? So that's how I've always watched the game of baseball. But it's not just MLB and Apple that now you are a part of with this wonderful technology. You're launching into other leagues. You had a pilot during the NBA Finals, and most recently announced a deal with NASCAR. So really tell us about how dealing with different leagues has really propelled nVenue to bigger and greater things.
Yeah, it's super exciting that the leagues are really diving into the in-game experience, and what we're doing. So take what I did back just in the early days of just watching fans at Astros games and more, and understanding what fans do in real time. Leagues are really doubling down now, and they're saying, how can we complement the in-game experience? How can we make sure that betting in the game or interacting in the game complements how our fans are watching a sport? Now, they're not just doing it out of the goodness of their heart, right? This is a huge profitable cycle that's going to happen, right? You get people to play along. They were not going to play along unless it's something that's enjoying and exciting. They're going to play along, then they're going to stay longer, they're going to watch longer, they're going to become better fans. So they're really, really jumping in and saying, how do we make this in-game experience good and better and something that's going to be worth our while? Well, what we did with MLB, we did that naturally because we love baseball. Kelly loves baseball, is just a fact. But taking the NBA, we partnered up with the NBA. We went through. We were selected out of their NBA Launchpad program to go out and design better bets, listening to what they know about their fans. And so by listening to them and partnering with them, we can design and have designed micro bets that suit how fans are watching, the right windows, like making it more natural to the game experience. And they were able to test our product with real live fans, almost 80,000 of them, in fact, in the International League during NBA final, or on the International League Pass during NBA finals. It was so exciting. We took almost 300,000 free to play micro bets, if you will, and really were able to show that fans stick around longer. Everybody was thrilled. Now we're doing the same thing with NASCAR. We're learning through them and with them what their fans are watching and starting to design in race micro bets that will do the same thing. But leagues getting involved and sharing their fan knowledge, being able to A/B test in real time, that's going to change everything for micro bets, because it goes back to that heart of why we're doing it in the first place, which is because we want to enjoy and experience that game.
You've had such a successful career with building supercomputers. When you talk about code, a lot of people, I don't think, really understand what it means to come up with a code and how you make this all work and so fast, and artificial intelligence, how it plays into this. Can you just give us an explanation of, for the layman's terms, how it all works?
Absolutely. So it all starts with making the prediction, and that's through machine learning. This is really nothing different than you did, Doug, as a catcher. You had some knowledge about where the sensitive spots were, what pitches to throw, what not to throw, what's happening on the field. Take all that stuff that you thought through as you were deciding what pitch should be thrown or what's going to happen on the field. That was your call. We're just replicating that with technology. We're able to say, these are the important things about this moment. And that applies to any sport, any moment in sports, and it's different across the whole game. So the machine learning takes real live data from the field, applies it to these models that we've built, and runs it all in the course of under a second to spit out a prediction. What will the next pitch be was a really interesting one over this playoff series. Valdez, for example, doesn't really throw a lot of fastballs, and therefore the predictions for that were a lot lower, and he had a higher prediction for other pitch types. So it's just replicating what you already know and what you think about. Now, the supercompute part of it is all of that has to be done incredibly fast. Like some of our predictions come out in 30 milliseconds, so well under a second, because we need to take time to allow people to see that before the next play happens. So it's just super fast predictive learning. The AI comes into place when we start to decide, okay, what's going to happen? What will the next plays be? And how do we pick what's relevant for people to see?
So let's go back to when Kelly was playing sports. You played tennis in high school, you played some college basketball and then you decided, well, I'm not going to be a professional athlete. I want to go into engineering. Boy, that was a great decision, Kelly. Look what it has, how it has paid off for you. But you've been able to mesh your two passions. That has to be so exciting to be able to do that. And when you think about those early days, did you have any idea when you went into engineering that you would go back on your sports knowledge and love that would turn out like this?
I think it was inevitable. Just as a technologist, you're always looking for solutions in the thing that you love, and that's what I loved. But now I was a coach's daughter, so sports were a huge part of my life in every shape and fashion you can imagine. I did play tennis. I played 1 year of college basketball at a small school called Colorado School of Mines, and I think it was mostly because they didn't have a women's tennis team, and they didn't know what to do with me, so they said, "Hey, why don't you play ball?" I'm about 5'2", so that was not ever going to be my career. But I think engineering was what I was meant to do. I love solving big problems. I love challenges. So this was just supernatural for me to say, can I take this data coming from the field and do something really cool with it? And that you don't see technologists have the opportunity to really combine passions like this. So I had the perfect storm. I got to combine two things that I'm very, very good at, along with this growing industry, like the industry with the repeal of PASPA, with the advances in machine learning and AI, with the advances in data. All of those things just lined up. And no, I had no idea this was my destiny, but I just think it was meant to be. So it's super exciting.
When you talk about the shift from the corporate world to a startup like nVenue, and you think about Dad, who you lost 5 years ago, and I know he was your hero. He taught you to take risks, and that's what you did. But you had a real sense that this was needed in the sports world, and so he has really, think about how he has really stayed with you and really driven you to this point.
Yeah, my dad is very obviously very special to me. He was a coach in West Texas. So the world of Friday Night Lights was how I grew up. He was a basketball coach, but he coached JV football in Midland. But my brothers played basketball, played football. We were just completely ensconced in the whole sports scenario. But one thing I learned from him was just how to be strategic and tactical, know what you're good at, know where you need to fill gaps. But, through his coaching career, I think he saw at some point, he did the same thing. He said, you know what, this is as far as I can go in coaching. There was a huge need for people in the oil industry in Midland, Texas, and he jumped careers too. Pretty much, midway through, and said, I'm going to go make my way in the oil business. The oil business eventually crashed. And he said, you know what, that was a great run. I'm going to go live somewhere that I love. I'm going to move to Colorado and make my home there. So that whole journey taught me not to be afraid to make changes, to take risks and make changes. And, I think he'd be really proud of what I'm doing right now, because, my husband and I, we sat down and said, there's a need. I can do this. If not now, when? I mean, I'd been at HP almost 20 years. So this wasn't, I wasn't a 25-year-old entrepreneur saying, hey, let's go make something happen. It was, later that this happened for me. But my dad inspired that because he showed me how to be strategic, how to take risks. And he took some big swings, and sometimes he made it and sometimes he didn't. But it removed all the fear of failure for me. And I think that's what's I most would tell him thank you for right now, if I could.
Another thing that strikes me about your dad is that he mentioned you have brothers who played sports, but he also took this great interest in you. And now you becoming one of the very few women executives in the tech sports world. That's because he believed in you just as much as his sons.
Oh, 100%. I think he and my brothers had me out throwing a spiral by the time I was like 8 years old. I didn't know I was any different. I never did. I thought and believed I could do anything because of my family. There was no, you're a girl, so you can't do this. It was, wow, let's go do this. Let's have fun. But as far as like representation in the space, story I like to tell, or how do I like to frame it to people, is when I was in tech, I was maybe one of 15 or 20 women in the room out of, uh, pretty much the whole career. It stayed pretty much a low percentage. When I went into sports tech and started doing sports things, it went to something like 1 in 100. Then when I founded a company and pivoted into sports betting, gosh, it's got to be like 1 in 10,000. So I fully believe in, if you can be it, you can see it. And I'm really happy to be part of leading that effort in this space, because I think that different voices make better products, and voices from women that are driving betting or women designing tech. I think it just makes the whole product more, just more accessible and more holistic for the people that are receiving this product, which is quite honestly a mix of everybody. It's not just one demographic. So it's a great time.
We're speaking with Kelly Pracht here on SportsJam, and you mentioned, it's not just for, the betting side, it's for the fan who just wants more and craves more information while they're watching. What has been the reaction from both fans and from the sports betting industry to nVenue?
Well, I was thinking about that today. I was thinking about the last, we just came back from a big sports betting conference, or big betting conference called G2E in Las Vegas. And it was our third trip to G2E. And I was thinking of the growth of this category and the growth of my company 3 G2Es ago. So, 2 years ago, we had just formed the company, really, like we got our legs. We had done some demos with NBC and put our content out live. We were green, and we were there to show people we can do it. But the space wasn't ready for microbets. It was still, will this make money? Is this good? Last year, it was, okay, we think this will make money. How do we do it? How do we, but yet we had kept growing. And then this past year, we're fully involved in the space. We're accepted in the space. People are watching our odds. The fact that we've partnered with Apple, with MLB Network, in the NBA, with NASCAR, it just gives evidence that we are a credible company delivering a really unique product. The response, though, is we're in a shifting and growing category. So there's all kinds of responses, but the overlying theme is people want more information as they watch sports, and they want to engage as they watch sports. And we're one of just a handful of companies that can truly do this in real time. So we couldn't be more excited about our future in nVenue. It's really bright.
So as you watch the Houston Astros with your husband, do you question Dusty Baker after knowing what you have in front of you? I mean, can you watch a game and just enjoy it?
I think I've taken a little bit of the enjoyment away from my family, but then they ask me, like, hey, should that have happened? Hey, like, what did the tech say? Even my chief of sales and revenue was texting me, hey, why aren't we showing a higher probability for fastball, like I mentioned the other day? So it's really consumed our lives and become a part of how we watch sports, but it is different for sure.
Now, will individual teams contact Kelly to find out, maybe some decisions that might be made, even if it comes down to, do we want to keep this, this pitcher, or do we want to call somebody up from the minor leagues? And they could use this data in so many ways, right?
Data is very powerful, for sure. I'm a big Bill James fan. And if you look at what Bill James did for the sport, he asked a different question of the data, right? I think one of the questions, like the way he looked at data, is, can it tell me more about what a good player is and what we should do? And that spawned the whole data analytics in baseball as we know it today, right? But his question was like what you said, like, can we do a better job as owners or GMs in structuring our team? And that was his question. And he handled the way he looked at the data to answer that. In my case, and what we're doing at nVenue, we're asking a different question. We're asking, what's going to happen in the next play? what's going to happen in 3 plays from now. So our question is, how do players perform under certain situations? So that may not say, hey, keep this player. Like if I were on team analytics, we've talked to a few of them. If I were one of those guys, our models don't answer that. They don't answer, should I keep the player? But they can say, here's some weak spots. And I think that's the future of where this data is. And I know many people are heads down on making that happen, but it all comes down to what I said in the beginning. What question are you asking of the data? And the question we're asking is, what's going to happen so that we can tell the fans what the data says quickly, and that we can let them bet on it. So, but I do look forward to a day of publishing my work and getting to meet Bill James and understanding more about kind of his history as well, because he spawned a whole new category and growth of numbers, and I kind of hope to do the same.
Kelly Pracht also uses her gut when it came to making certain decisions. So yes, analytics, plays a role in everything that you do and predictability, but you used your gut to decide, I want to start this nVenue. So it wasn't just all the data you had. You also had this feeling inside. And does that come from just the fact that you knew that there was this void in the sports world?
Yeah, I am a data person. That shouldn't surprise you, right? And wouldn't it be a great world if we always had such clear answers? Like if we could see A, B, C, D, E, go do that. They weren't there, right? Like I think this is part of the engineering skills that I do have, though. You never have enough data to say what you should do. Rarely do you. It comes down to, what is it showing me? How much do I know? And while it was gut, because my gut said, hey, all of these people around me want to do the same thing I'm doing. That's part of the gut. At the time, there was no study that said, hey, microbetting is this. There was nobody out there doing it. It was undone. So there wasn't a big industry report. There wasn't even a TAM for this. We had to make it all. So most people want that kind of information before you go out and build a company. So my gut came in when I said, there's a market need. Millions of people are watching sports in the US and wanting to engage. Nobody else is doing it. I have the skills. And so that was the data I had to act on. Now, if that's gut, then that's gut, but there was still data behind it.
I understand there's an nVenue fantasy league. So with that being said, I would imagine that's super competitive because everybody involved has that whole machine approach to what's going on and the numbers and the data. How's the league going?
Oh my goodness. Great question. So I don't know if you know this, but Matthew Berry is one of our advisors. So it was against the rules to ask Matthew what his picks were. So that was number one. We did not invite him into the league this year because I think we didn't want to be embarrassed. And Kelly didn't want to be embarrassed because, quite honestly, I haven't had time to manage my team. So I keep having people on injured reserve and I forget the bye week. And damn, that's so frustrating. But no, sports, when it comes to sports and predicting what's happening, this is what I see all the time is you can give people numbers all day long. This is where the gut comes into play. And it's what do I think is going to happen as a sports fan? I could tell you probabilities and percentages, and ESPN does a beautiful job at telling us that, like who's projected to win and whatnot. But no, we're all gut on that one. And we have a lot of smack talk, so it's a lot of fun. I'm going to lose my $50 this year for sure. Jalen Hurts is keeping me in the running, but other than that, I'm not doing so well.
I guess you knew you really had exactly what you were looking for when Apple started to put it on the screen, right? And so you could really, because once you get it involved in, on the media side, it's magic.
It really is. And gosh, we learned so much from putting the numbers on the screen. Our first experience was putting it on with NBC in a couple of trials the season before. And we learned a lot from there. That was gut wrenching, right? Like the first time you see your work when it's going out to millions of people, I can't even describe that feeling. Other than like part of you is really proud, and part of you is like so fearful, and then you bounce back and forth between those two feelings. To see it on Apple, and then it got to millions, and not just one season but then 2 seasons, was phenomenal. And all of those emotions and all those feelings just went wild in our company, because yeah, we see on one side, we see like, this is fire, this is great, this is awesome. The Apple executives were really pleased, and we're seeing, like Tim talking reports about how innovative the broadcast is, and to know that we're changing history, right? Like we're changing history by being the first predictive analytics live as it goes ever. Wow, like that's something I think my dad would really be proud of. The fact that I, as a 5'2" sports techie, changed the space, or was part of that movement. Awesome. But we also learned a ton about how fans interact with those numbers. And what I mentioned about gut earlier, that's what we learned too. Like there was so much debate about, should it really have been 33% for a reach, or should it have been more like 35 in venue? Come on now. Like it should have been 35. Or there was so much debate about the numbers went one way and it should have gone the other. Like the cool thing about our data is we find these thumbprints of behavior in players that would surprise you. As a former catcher, I really feel like I need to like sit down with you and show you these. But like we would find holes, like a player at an 0-2 count would behave a completely different way. And it was true all season. So in that case, the probabilities would go a different way than Major League average, only just up a little bit, nonetheless up. And so fans really were anxious to engage in the why. Why is this? What can you tell me more? What's the proof of that? And whether they loved it or hated it or wanted to debate it, what was so freaking cool was the fact that fans were talking about the little white numbers on the bottom right of the screen and it just shows this hunger in the world to understand data more and to get data that helps them make sense of things. So it was brilliant, and it was quite the ride, I have to tell you.
Yeah, with that ride, I would love to know, we only have just a few minutes left here. What has been the most interesting comment you've got from a former colleague at Hewlett Packard that knows that you're, on this unbelievable journey now?
I love interacting with my old colleagues. I was always very close with my teams at HP. And so I think one of my favorite things is to talk about what I'm doing and how I applied this. And I think I get a lot of side messages about, I've got this idea, I'd love to do that. I love to encourage them, but I've brought on a few of them to come with me on this journey, and that is so rewarding. My new head of technical operations, she said to me 2 days ago, I said, hey, remember that time we were building the first ARM supercomputer for the world? And she's like, this is just the same. It's just a different problem. Like, this is cool. So I say to anybody out in that tech space, like, if you want to know more about doing a startup and jumping from your career, definitely call me, because that's the fun part, is to encourage people how to see their ideas and go for it.
There's probably, in connection with you being such a Houston Astros fan, there's one thing I don't need nVenue to tell me, and that is Jose Altuve will be in the Hall of Fame someday.
Isn't he great? Yeah, he's so much fun to watch, and he's got such a good spirit, I think. And this is just a tribute to how we all watch sports differently. I mean, he's certainly he's performing, but my favorite part about watching him over the years is how he encourages new players. I remember him going out and getting the ball for a rookie's first hit at one of the games I was at, like a Hall of Famer taking the time to really grow and encourage a rookie. I thought that was so incredibly cool. So his his demeanor and just his kindness is something that inspires me. And hitting game-winning home runs in the bottom of the ninth, like that's always good.
I'm sure you probably talk to Dad like I talk to my dad still, even though they're not with us. But Dad shows up tonight. What would you want to tell him?
I would set all tech aside. I would set all business stuff aside, and I would just sit and enjoy the game with my dad. And he'd probably have a hot dog because he absolutely loved ballpark hot dogs. And I think I would just go back to the old days when we sat and watched baseball. And that's why I loved baseball in the first place, or any sport. I could just sit with my family and be together. And that's what I would do.
What a great answer. Kelly Pracht is the CEO and founder of nVenue, which indeed is changing the way we look at sports, and it's venturing out into so many different leagues now: NASCAR, NBA, MLB, and beyond. We know more leagues are coming their way. Kelly, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and thanks for joining us on SportsJam.
Thank you for having me.
SportsJam is a WBGO Studios production. You can hear all the past shows by going to wbgo.org/sportsjam or wbgo.org/studios. You can also find SportsJam with Doug Doyle on the NPR list of podcasts or wherever you hear podcasts. Until our next SportsJam session, I'll see you at the game.